Okay, guys, we're gonna learn in depth on how to make a typing test just like this. What's cool is that it comes with this virtual keyboard. Now, let's say you type in something like this. Let me do a capital L-R-I-N, Philip, at. Now, the thing is, this is your virtual helper. It sees that the first letter is capital, so it's telling you to do Shift L. You get it right, it's green, and the next one blinks. You get it wrong, it's red, and your mistake updates. And it still blinks, and you can still fix it, and it turns yellow. Okay, and then it tells you what the next character is. So if you finish the whole thing, then you get a result, right? That tells you your words per minute, the accuracy, and all of that good stuff. Now, we're gonna start this from scratch in my HTML. Let me move this. I don't have anything right now, just the text area, an ID container where I'm gonna render all the text, and a start button. Okay. CSS, there's nothing. In JavaScript, there's also nothing. Okay, so here, I'm gonna paste in some things for the JavaScript. All of these are just variables. This is the text. Now, the first thing we're gonna try to do is to render the virtual keyboard, right? So that's why I have these row 0 through 3. If you look at the final product, let's see, we have 1 row, 2 row, 3 row, and 4 rows, right? And it comes with the spacebar, the caps lock, the shift, all the number keys, and all of the letter keys. We're gonna generate this in JavaScript. So let's see how we can do that first. Okay, let's go back to our new one right here. We move this to the side. So how can we render this? Well, first let's do const all rows will be equal to row 0, row 1, row 2, and row 3, like this. Okay, so now let's write a function. Say render keyboard, and then let's pass in the rows. Now, notice this will be an array of arrays. So it's a nested array. So just keep that in mind. That means we're going to need 2 nested loops. Instead of doing 2 for loops, I'm going to use the while loop for the outer loop. Okay. All right. While what? Let's go to our HTML. We're going to append all of our text content inside this container, inside of a span. Okay. So we can actually use the container. So we have the container ID here, while container dot child element count is less than 4. There. So while it's less than 4, we're going to do const row will be equal to document dot create element, and let's just create a div for now. Okay, so far I appended the child, so this while loop doesn't run on forever. Okay, let's give this row a class. Let's do row.set attribute class, and they're going to be called row, of course. Now, inside of this for loop, we're also going to do a regular for loop. But before that, let me do const current, which is the current outer index that we're on, is actually the same as container.childElement. So in here, let I equal to 0. We're going to run this as long as what I is less than rows at current index that we're on dot length. And then, of course, I plus plus. Okay, what are we doing inside of the for loop? Once again, we're going to create a new element. Let's call this a tile or a square. Okay. And then let's do tile.set attribute class, and all of these will be tile. And then tile.text content, what's that going to be equal to? Well, that's going to be equal to the rows at current, because we have a nested array at I, which accesses the inner array's text content. Okay. And then let me do tile.style.border. This is 2px think solid group. Okay. And then don't forget, we need to do the row.append child and append the tile that we just made. Okay. All right. So now on the right, you see that we just rendered all of that. Okay. So let's make this look a little bit neater. How can we target all this? Let's go to our HTML. So right now, everything is inside of our container, right? So container, I'm just gonna do display grid, place content center for now, okay? So this is the big container. All right, so now we're gonna select the container and we're gonna select all of its direct children, okay? And these, we're gonna do display flex, okay? See, so now this whole thing is centered, but each row, each direct child is display flex, okay? Now, I'm gonna select all of the inner child. Remember, this is all of the span, but you can do this. And then I'm gonna give these display grid and then place content center to actually center all of the text and stuff like that, right? And then let's do width, 2 rem. Is that good? Okay, good. Now, if you see here, the caps and the shift is kind of iffy, right? So what happens if we go into our index.js here? Can we style it from here? Yeah. So before we append it, we can say, let's do a if statement outside here. So if tile.text content dot includes, if it includes cap, or copy this, if it includes shift, then let's do tile.style.width is equal to 4 rem in strings. See here. Cool, right? Now all of this works. Let me see. Can you do border radius 50%? Let me see what that looks like. Okay. And this means if it's not a really full circle, you also need to set the height like this. Okay, cool. But now you see that the caps and the shift, right, should not have border radius of 50% because they look kind of weird, right? So here, inside of this if statement, you can even change that. Tile.style.border, God, I can't spell radius, is equal to, let's say 5px. Cool, right? So now this looks a lot better. And we just finished generating our virtual keyboard. Okay, so now on to the next problem. If we type this in and we click start, we want the program to start, right? So let's tackle that next.